Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and I hope that you are doing super duper fantastic. And I just want to ask, what if it's true? What if we are staring down the barrel of a reset? What if the simulation theory, which, by the way, dear loved one, does not have to be in a computer, right? It can be a simulation in mind. But as I've said many times, anything that's possible is manifest somewhere in the field, somewhere in the all of creation, in the mind and the universal source. Somewhere, anything that's possible, anything we can imagine is manifest somewhere. Now, in this particular construct, which I do believe is one of, I don't want to say unlimited, but an unfathomable number of constructs. In this one, we have found lots of evidence that would suggest that there are resets. That there are times on this planet, in this world, that everything stops. Everything, be it with a flood or a flash freeze or whatever the case may be, everything stops. And then it resets. I mean, if you go back and you read Genesis in the Judeo-Christian Bible, the story of the creation and Adam and Eve and all that, if you read that from the perspective of a reset event, it makes things come a little more clear. I mean, it does say when in the Genesis story that God created man and woman and blessed them and then told them to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. And that word replenish is fascinating. Because it's to replenish something would imply that it had once had it, but now it doesn't. And you're being instructed to put it back, to restock it. And that is fascinating. And that doesn't mean that you can't be a Jewish or Christian. That doesn't mean you can't still follow your faith. What that does mean, though, is that maybe, just most likely, religious leaders, people throughout history who have sought to control humanity, have, well, instilled fear in us. And I've also believed that this construct has been hijacked, I suppose. It's been hijacked by what we call the archons. They would be the, not necessarily evil spirits, but they definitely don't have our best interest in mind. They're looking out for their own interests. And we would be basically farm animals. I mean, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but just putting it simply so that it's like, look, they're not necessarily against you, but they're certainly not for you either. So, but what if it's true? What if it's true that this construct has built into it reset events, which there have been lots of cases documented. Now, mainstream archaeology, mainstream science, mainstream media, mainstream everything, it completely ignores it. They completely block it out. In fact, they do the opposite of which, but they ignore those events. They ignore the evidence. But they also have people put out there that come off as not mainstream. They have those people, and I'm not going to call them out by name. You know who they are. But there are people who, well, you should know who they are. You should anyway, dear loved one. But, and since we're on the subject, because we're not, if you have not hit the like button yet, please do so. I would appreciate that. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do that as well. But yes, there's lots of evidence of resets. From, like one that I love and I think is fascinating are the mammoths that were found. For one, mammoths, they are portrayed to us as a creature, as an animal that lived in the snowy tundra. Where they're found now is definitely snowy. They were found buried in the permafrost. They were found just fully intact to the point where they were grazing on buttercups, right? Little flowers. They were grazing on buttercups, and they were frozen so quickly that these buttercups were still on their tongues as they were grazing. I got to believe they were just peacefully grazing in some meadow and then freeze. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, how else do you explain it? It's not like there was some big cataclysm, Younger Dryas event. Some big asteroid comes in and smashes into the earth and every living creature is running in every direction for its life. No, it doesn't come off that way. They're just grazing. Like I said, I gotta believe they're in some beautiful little meadow and just peacefully grazing on buttercups when the button was pushed. And it was a flash freeze. And to kind of go along with that, we have the 3D fossils. These are fossils of, say, like clams. Clam, as I've mentioned before, when a clam dies, its muscle relaxes and it opens up. That's why when you go to the beach, you see shells that are, sometimes they're still intact, both halves, they're intact, but they're always open because they died and the muscle relaxed and it opened up. In most cases, you only find one half of it, but okay. But these 3D fossils, they are of clams or just other animals. There's lots of 3D fossils, but the clam is an easy one to visualize. But it's fully intact, but yet it is completely petrified. It was as if it was frozen in place in an instant. It didn't die. It didn't die because it's still intact. As if it were alive, but it's obviously not. It's now a 3D fossil. And then through the what's forbidden archaeology, underground structures, they appear to have just sunk in the dirt. And it's like, well, how could that happen? Well, it's a process called liquefaction. You can vibrate the earth in such a way that it basically turns into quicksand and any structures sitting on top would just sink. And that's why you find structures perfectly intact, in some cases hundreds of feet below the surface of the earth. These things happen. I think it was a mile under in Oklahoma, in a drilling company. But see, a lot of these drilling companies have to sign NDAs. They have to sign non-disclosure agreements. Whatever they find that might not fit the narrative of the mainstream, they can't release that information. Otherwise, they lose their drilling contracts. That's true. So, when we think of these reset events, it's like, well, how often do these happen? I mean, they do happen on a schedule, I suppose, in which we will definitely get into that. But it's like, how often do these things happen, and why would they happen? And I believe that their reason for it is several reasons, but one of which is to keep these archons, keep the forces that kind of hijack this world, this construct, to hijack it and subdue it, take it under control, and for lack of a better term, enslave those mortals of us, those who are in the 3D, give us a chance to, well, for one, to keep that in check. Keep that to just wipe that out. And then when it resets, everything restarts, and of course that whole struggle starts over again. And it may be different the next time. I got to believe each run is a little bit different than the last. Why would it be? Some things are probably the same, but you know. But I also got to believe that resets give us an opportunity to safely get out of here. Because, well, it's like when we've come in here, I believe, by choice, as I've said before, and enthusiastically, to have this opportunity to learn mortality, to experience polarity, to experience duality, to just, there's so, when you have the pendulum swing, when you have the yin and the yang, there's so much that you can learn from. When there is mortality, when there is life and death and beauty and beauty and horrific, all of that, there's so much to learn. It's so rich. This world is so rich in just diversity of life, of climate, of history, and just the mystery of this place. It's amazing. So, reset events would have a definite purpose. One would be to keep the powers in check, so that it doesn't get too lopsided. Also, to give those of us who have come into here a safe point, a point where we can safely be extricated. Some people think, and I think there's a lot of truth to this, that there's a convergence of, at certain points in time, there's a convergence of dimensions. Like we're in this dimension, this construct, and then there may be another dimension, and then there's a convergence of those, and there can be a back and forth between the two for a certain amount of time. That would certainly explain where, I don't know, where the Mayans went, things like that. But that's getting a little bit off subject. But is it scary? It's like, man, if everything were to just flash freeze and just end, and then through the liquefaction, so we find there's buildings, whole structures, there's whole everything. Everything has been found deep within the earth. Human skeletons found 600-700 feet in the ground. Coins from like Roman and or Greek found deep in the earth in Illinois, just for example. And it's like all this just sinks below the surface. It's like the wiping out. It's like the reboot of the computer. But as we know, as I've said many times, you can ask any computer nerd who can tell you that if there is a system reboot on a computer, if you know how and where to look, you'll find evidence of previous runs on that computer. There's never really fully a reboot. There's never really fully a wipeout on a computer hard drive. If you know where and how to look, you'll find evidence of the previous runs. That would be like computer archaeology. But is it scary? It can be a scary thought. It's like, man, if everything were to just freeze, and what happens then? Well, I got to believe that those of us who are ready to go, we go. We wake up on the other side. And maybe we find that only a day has passed or whatever. That's something that's fun to think about. But it's not really, it's whatever. But we wake up on the other side. And like, wow, I guess I learned what I went there to learn. I accomplished what I went into that construct to accomplish, and wow, was it a freaking ride. And then there are those who are like, yeah, they didn't quite make it. They didn't awaken and learn these things. They got lost in materialism. They got lost in the illusion. They got lost in thinking this is all there is. They didn't realize that they have a spiritual side, that they have a true higher self that's on the outside who is jacked into here having this experience. So those are probably going to have to run through it again. But whatever, it's just another day, right? Of course, it's just another day that seems to last about 7,000 or 8,000 years, but you know, when you exist outside of time, that's not much. fact, it doesn't even exist. But is it scary? I was like, well, it depends. Personally, I find it exciting. And that's something I really had to search myself to come to that conclusion. I had to really ask myself, are you really excited? Does a prospect of a reset, does a prospect of a flash freeze, everything just stops and we reboot? Is that really? That doesn't scare you? And I gotta, to be honest, there was a time in my life that it did, but I have since had I've begun my awakening, and now I can honestly tell you that it's an exciting thing. It's like, yeah, if I were to wake up from this and realize, wow, that was pretty tough at times. In fact, a lot of times that was very tough. That was such a hard game to play, right? But man, the experience that I gained from it, and it was truly something. It was really, truly something. And you may realize, as hard as it was, and as like I see a lot of people who are like, like starseed types and stuff. They're like, I hate this place. I just want to get out of here. It's like, well, that kind of attitude is not going to get you out of here. You've got to learn to love this. You got to see the beauty in it and what you came here to do. Because if you have that attitude of, I just long to be back at home in the Pleiades or wherever, if you have that attitude in here, you're probably never going to get out until you learn to appreciate just the polarity alone, the duality. It's amazing. So anyway, but yes, I find it to be exciting, and I'm relieved to realize that. I really had to ask myself truly, deeply, and say, do you really find it exciting at that prospect? And I do. I didn't always feel that way, but I do now. And I'm relieved, and I am excited for what's to come. But I'm also excited for what's to come while we're still here. The world is spinning out of control, right? It's going to hell in a handbasket. So it's like, well, how could you be excited about that, Matt? It's like, because you never know what's going to happen next. I mean, this is like an exciting adventure, because that's really what it amounts to. I'm not saying there's nothing serious about it. We've got to learn some very hard lessons here, yes. But it's so immersive, and it's like a 3D world where you get to go in and play and learn a lot. I mean, if you don't know where I'm at, then I can't imagine you'd still be watching this video. But you are a soul here temporarily for a purpose. I believe there's a collective purpose and there's an individual purpose. The collective purpose we're contributing to, but there's not a whole lot of control we have over it. All we can really have any control over is our individual purpose. But I'm not going to go much further into this right now, but it's kind of setting up some more videos. It's like I've really been thinking deep into the Fermi paradox. It's like Fermi's paradox, it definitely means something. Fermi's paradox tells us that it's like, well, if the universe is teeming with life, then where are all the aliens? That's what basically Fermi's paradox is. Like, there's another answer to that. If we are in a quarantined, if we are in a closed system, we're in this construct, in this server, there is no, hence Fermi's paradox, dear loved one. But I just want to encourage you to remember the yin and the yang. The pendulum does swing. This realm is of polarity. It's of duality. And we are gaining so much. But now we're having our awakenings and realizing, wow, this was all this. And I feel like there's a reset on the horizon. Because where the world is spinning out of control, going to hell in a handbasket, everything is just ramping up, time is speeding up, the events in the world are speeding up, everything is ramping up. It's coming to a head. Something's about to happen. And for a lot of people, that's a scary prospect. But for those of us who are having our awakening and realizing that this is an adventure where we came into and to learn a lot, gain a lot of experience, maybe have a little fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're waking up to all of this. We're going to outgrow this. This construct is not going to need us anymore because, for one, we would hinder it. Its job is to fool people so that they work to come into their awakening. But if we stayed here and spread the word, it would be too easy for people then. But anyway, that's getting into a whole other thing. So anyway, loved one, if you have not yet hit the like button, please do so. I would really appreciate that. And share this video with somebody, please. I would really appreciate that as well. Besides that, and of course, subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done that, yes. But besides that, I love you. I really do, and I'll be back directly.